Hollywood is shrinking fast. One red carpet season, you're watching familiar faces. The next, they're suddenly carved, hollow-cheeked, and brand new. This isn't a nationwide wellness wave. It's an image arms race. Camera-ready jawlines, youth-chasing culture, and GLP-1 drugs turning weight loss into an industry standard. The whispers aren't about health. They're about staying castable, clickable, and marketable. So here's the real question. In today's entertainment machine, does everyone have to get thin to survive? Kelly Osbourne's transformation didn't land as a celebration. It landed as a pause. Fans who had watched her grow up in public felt something was off, not because she changed, but because she seemed diminished. The softness and spark that once made her look vibrant were replaced by a sharpness that read less fit and more fragile. This wasn't a glow-up. It felt like something had been taken away. What makes Kelly's story impossible to separate is her mother. Sharon Osbourne didn't hide her own experience. She openly admitted to using weight loss medication, admitted she didn't like how it made her feel, and admitted she regretted it. Even more unsettling, Sharon has said her body never fully recovered. The weight came off quickly, but so did volume, elasticity, and energy. Her appearance changed in ways that time didn't seem to reverse. Placed side by side, the similarities between mother and daughter are hard to ignore. Both experienced rapid physical shifts. Both appeared thinner, but also more drained. And both became quiet examples of something rarely discussed. Not all weight loss is recoverable, especially not when age, skin, and hormones are already in play. This isn't about blame or aesthetics. It's about consequence. When a shortcut promises control but quietly steals resilience, the cost doesn't always show up right away. Kelly and Sharon Osbourne's story feels unsettling because it suggests a generational echo, one choice repeated with effects that linger. It's a reminder that transformation isn't always progress, and regret doesn't always come with a rewind button. Ariana Grande's recent appearance has sparked one of the most uncomfortable conversations in pop culture. Not because people want to be cruel, but because they're being told not to trust what they're seeing. Fans are repeatedly assured that this is the healthiest she's ever been. Yet to many, her body tells a different story. Her frame appears dramatically smaller, her features sharper, her presence almost fragile. This doesn't look like strength or vitality. It looks like strain. What makes the moment especially confusing is how sudden the shift feels. Not long ago, Ariana looked grounded, luminous, and physically strong. The contrast is jarring. When concern shows up online, it's often shut down as body shaming, even when it's rooted in genuine worry. But noticing visible change isn't cruelty, it's human instinct. Grief and emotional hardship have been offered as explanations, and those realities matter. But the timeline doesn't fully align. The physical changes appeared before some of the public losses, suggesting something more complex happening beneath the surface. And because Ariana carries enormous influence, the framing matters. When extreme thinness is praised as peak wellness, the message doesn't stop with her, it spreads. Millions of young fans are watching. They absorb the praise, the headlines, the reassurance that this is fine. And slowly, the standard shifts. Thin becomes synonymous with disciplined. Fragile becomes beautiful. Hunger becomes invisible. Ariana Grande isn't just an individual navigating change. She's a cultural signal. And when that signal tells people that looking breakable is healthy, the impact reaches far beyond one body. It reshapes what an entire generation learns to admire. Simon Cowell has always sold the image of control. Control over talent, over taste, over the room. For decades, he was the sharp-tongued judge who never flinched, never doubted, never softened. But in recent years, something shifted, and it's been written all over his body. Simon didn't just lose weight. He began disappearing. The changes came fast and kept stacking. Dramatic weight loss, cosmetic tweaks, wellness treatments layered on top of each other. Some weeks he looked lean and youthful, other weeks strangely swollen or exhausted. Fans noticed. So did producers. So did tabloids. And then Simon said something that stopped people cold. He admitted that watching his own son eat makes him anxious because food has become a constant mental battlefield for him. That wasn't a fitness quote. That was a warning. This no longer feels like health. It feels like fear. Fear of aging out. Fear of losing relevance. Fear of becoming invisible in an industry that rewards youth and punishes softness. Insiders whisper about injections, procedures, strict regimens, each one promising a little more control, a little more time. But the more Simon tries to freeze himself in place, the more unnatural the result becomes. There's a cruel irony here. After spending a lifetime judging others, Simon now seems trapped by his own reflection. The mirror has become his harshest critic. And when staying camera-ready means obsessing over every bite and every wrinkle, the pursuit of perfection stops being aspirational. It becomes exhausting, isolating, and quietly heartbreaking. Scott Disick has never been the picture of restraint. For years, his appeal lived in the chaos, the sarcasm, the excess, the unbothered attitude that made him feel immune to Hollywood's wellness obsessions. That's why what happened next felt so jarring. When weight loss medication was spotted casually sitting in his fridge on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Scott brushed it off with his usual confidence. No shame, no explanation. Just classic Disick deflection. But the body told a different story. His weight began dropping fast. Too fast. This wasn't a gradual getting in shape moment. It was a sharp, unsettling shift that had fans asking if something was wrong. Reports followed, erratic eating patterns, long stretches of barely eating, then sudden binges. Balance disappeared. The glow-up narrative didn't fit anymore. The real turning point didn't come from the internet or the tabloids. It came from home. Scott's teenage son, Mason, reportedly expressed concern about his dad's habits. When your child becomes the voice of caution, the illusion breaks. That's not self-improvement, that's a red flag. By early 2026, sources say Scott began working with professionals to stabilize his health, trying to find a middle ground again. But the damage was already visible. He had gone from mocking Hollywood's image pressure to being swallowed by it. Scott Disick's story isn't about vanity. It's about how fast looking better can slide into losing control, especially in a culture that applauds thinness before it asks if you're okay. Jonah Hill has spent more than a decade trying to escape a conversation he never agreed to have. No matter how many films he makes, how much therapy he does, or how clearly he asks for boundaries, the world keeps circling back to the same question: his body. In late 2025, when Jonah appeared noticeably leaner on set, the internet did what it always does. It speculated, analyzed, and diagnosed from afar. Was it medication? Stress? Illness? Discipline? The details almost didn't matter. The reaction was automatic. Jonah has been painfully open about how damaging this obsession has been for him. He has asked people politely, publicly, repeatedly not to comment on his appearance, even when they think they're being kind. Compliments, he's explained, still reinforce the same trap. And yet, every change becomes a headline. If he gains weight, concern turns into ridicule. If he loses it, praise morphs into interrogation. There's no version of his body that doesn't trigger commentary. It's a cycle that feeds itself. Attention creates pressure, pressure fuels anxiety, anxiety invites more scrutiny. Groundhog Day, but with paparazzi and push notifications. Whether Jonah used weight loss medication or not is beside the point. The real issue is the environment he's trapped in, one that refuses to let him exist without commentary. His body has become public property, a cultural debate instead of a human one. Jonah Hill doesn't need another transformation. He needs something far rarer in Hollywood: permission to be left alone. James Corden thought he was signing up for a smaller waistline. What he didn't expect was a full-on psychological reckoning. When the former Late Late Show host tried weight loss medication, it worked exactly as promised. His appetite vanished. Food stopped calling. Donuts became irrelevant. Hunger, once loud, went completely silent. But James kept eating anyway. That's when the realization hit. He wasn't eating because his body needed fuel. He was eating because his emotions needed soothing. Stress, boredom, celebration, insecurity. Food had been his default language for all of it. And when the medication removed hunger from the equation, it didn't bring peace. It brought emptiness. Corden later admitted that this was the part no one warns you about. Without appetite, he didn't feel empowered. He felt exposed. The routine that once brought comfort was gone, and nothing had replaced it. No craving, no satisfaction, just a quiet void where coping used to live. That silence forced him to confront habits he'd never fully examined. This wasn't a glow-up story. It was a mirror. Weight loss drugs didn't fix the relationship James had with food. They revealed how deep it went. And that's the uncomfortable truth Hollywood rarely shares. When you take away the hunger, but leave the emotional wiring untouched, the body may shrink, but the questions grow louder. James Corden's experience wasn't about failure or success. It was about clarity. Because sometimes the hardest part of changing your body isn't losing weight. It's realizing why you were holding on to it in the first place. Fat Joe didn't just lose weight. He lost it loudly, publicly, and without pretending it was all green juice and willpower. In 2024, the Bronx icon revealed he had dropped nearly 200 pounds. And unlike most celebrities, he didn't dance around the how. He said it straight. Medication helped, and he wasn't ashamed of it. In a culture built on half-truths and "I just cut carbs" fairy tales, that honesty felt refreshing. But the details are where things got complicated. Joe began sharing what his daily eating actually looked like, and it raised eyebrows fast. Portions so small they sounded less like meals and more like survival rations. Half an egg, a few bites here and there. Nutrition experts quietly cringed while fans took notes. What worked for Fat Joe may have genuinely saved his life, and that part matters. At his previous weight, the risks were real, and the stakes were high. Still, the casual way extreme restriction entered the conversation was unsettling. When someone with his influence makes near starvation sound manageable, even normal, the message can land wrong. Most people don't have private doctors, constant monitoring, or a team adjusting dosages behind the scenes. They just see the results. Fat Joe told his truth, and that truth deserves respect. But it also revealed a dangerous gray area in the modern weight loss narrative where transparency collides with responsibility, and survival strategies start getting mistaken for lifestyle advice. Tracy Morgan did what almost no one else in Hollywood dared to do. He told the truth, and he made it funny without making it fake. In early 2024, he went on The Tonight Show and casually revealed that while taking weight loss medication, he actually gained 40 pounds. The audience laughed. The internet exploded. But buried inside the punchline was one of the most honest lessons of the entire Ozempic era. Tracy explained it simply. The medication lowered his appetite, but it didn't lower his love for food. Fried chicken still called his name. Ribs still mattered. Dessert was still non-negotiable. He said he out-ate the shot, and somehow that joke landed harder than any wellness sermon ever could. Because it exposed a truth most people don't want to admit: hunger isn't always physical. What Tracy's story really revealed is that these medications don't touch emotional eating. They don't fix stress, boredom, loneliness, or the habits we've built over a lifetime. If food is comfort, reward, and routine, an injection can't rewrite that relationship overnight. So Tracy ended up with the side effects, the nausea, and the scale moving in the wrong direction. Instead of pretending it was a failure, Tracy framed it as reality. And that matters. In a culture obsessed with miracle solutions, his experience was a rare reminder that there is no magic button. Sometimes the real work isn't in the stomach. It's in the stories we tell ourselves when we sit down to eat. So maybe the real question isn't who lost the most weight, but why we're applauding it without asking the cost. Thin doesn't always mean healthy, and transformation doesn't always mean progress. If this video made you pause, question, or see these stories differently, that matters. Start the conversation. Share this with someone who needs perspective, not pressure. And if you're chasing a body you saw online, remember what you don't see is often the price. Like, comment, and subscribe for more stories they don't want you to question.